what you gonna do, brother?
Oh, yeah!
Woo! What? What?
If you smell what the rock...
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Alboski. That guy right there is Professor Keith, as always. And joining us, ladies and gentlemen, SWA's own, the Bruise Brothers, Blade and Reggie. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
What's going on, gentlemen? How are y'all today?
Oh, we are excellent. We are excellent. We are glad and honored to have you. We did have your partner, Blade. We had Reggie on a couple of weeks ago, and he was fantastic. But we want to get to know you, so he got in touch with you, and here we are. We got the Bruise Brothers from SWA, and we can't wait to get into it with you. How you guys doing tonight anyway?
I'm doing well.
I'm good.
Excellent. So, Blade, when we had Reggie on, he told us about his love for this business. I'm going to assume that if you're getting in the ring and putting your body on the line for everybody's, entertainment, that you love this business too. So, tell us when and where and how that happened, where you fell in love with professional wrestling, because it's happened to fans and performers alike. So, when did that happen for you?
Back in the late 70s, early 80s. I grew up in Morgan City, Louisiana, so we had the Mid-South Wrestling.
Yeah.
My first match was in Houma, Louisiana that I went to, and the main event was Junkyard Dog and Mike George against Ernie Ladd and Bad Leroy Brown.
Wow.
Shawn Michaels was on that show. No, not Shawn, not on that one. Coco Samoa was on there.
Okay.
Don Diamond. A lot of those guys came through the early 80s and stuff like that. And the characters and just the individuals just made me want to love it. And I started going every Tuesday night to they called it the Centralplex back then. It's the River Center now. But every Tuesday night we was down there. My mom and daddy would take me home to Lafayette, and Morgan City would have wrestling out there. I actually lived about 2 blocks from the Municipal Auditorium in Morgan City.
Wow.
I remember watching everybody shake the One Man Gang's car a couple times when he was trying to get in and out of it and stuff like that. So just as a kid, always wanting to do it, and ended up getting into it.
So how old were you when you decided, I want to do this? I want to get in the ring. I want to train. And who trained you? How did you get started?
I actually started when I was 24 years old. So I started actually late in life.
Right.
Actually, a friend of mine was playing softball. Actually, in the town I live in, they were having wrestling I was living in LaPlace, Louisiana at the time. And she came by the house and told me about this wrestling. So I drove down here, and the promoter at the time was a guy named Rockwaller. And I just asked him if there was anything I could do to help, whether it was security, escort the wrestlers to and from the ring, whatever it was, if he needed a gopher, I was willing to do it. And on that show was the first time I met Skandar Akbar. I met Terry Bam Bam Gordy. And then I met a guy by the name of Blackjack Daniels, who's from Memphis. And after the show, we kind of talked and exchanged numbers, and he gave me the phone number to outlaw Don Bass up in Memphis. And so that was on a Friday night. Then on Saturday, I gave Don a call, missed a call, and then called me back on Sunday. About 3 weeks later, I was moving to Memphis and trained to be a wrestler. That was in August. December 8th of 1995, I had my first match in Batesville, Arkansas.
In 1995, Keith. Were you born yet? No, I'm kidding.
Of course I was born then.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I had my first match for a promoter named Phil Hansen that worked a gentleman by the name of Randy Rocket, who I ended up having a pretty good feud with throughout my career.
I was kind of hoping he got booked with Jarrett so I could make that joke that Dutch Mantel used to make when Jarrett walked in one day and goes, "I don't want to hear about any of you boys on the steroids now." And Dutch piped up and said, "Gary, with what you pay us, we can't afford to be on food."
Oh man. So 1995, you're off and rolling. Were you off and rolling basically a singles guy? Like, what were you doing, and who were some of the guys you were taking on?
When I first started wrestling for Larry Booker, Moondog Spot in Osceola, Arkansas on Friday nights. I was wrestling Randy Rocket, a guy by the name of Derek King, who's a mainstay in Memphis with Power Pro. Don Bass, Blackjack Daniels, a gentleman by the name of Motley Crue, the Missouri Bad Boys. I'm trying to think of Big Don Brody. Just a lot of those guys up there, Ricky Murdoch, just a lot of the Memphis territorial guys that were up there. When I broke in, USWA was starting to slow down. They had moved from the Coliseum into the big flea market and was doing shows. And then they shut down for a little while. I was running around, actually got hooked up with Bill Superstar Dundee. He took Derek King and I under his wing and pretty much took us all over the road in, around the Memphis area. Started working with David Milliken, the guy who creates all the belts. He was running Brighton, Tennessee. I actually started playing the music for him and kind of broke that into an angle, started working for him and just worked a lot of people through there. Motley Crue was one of the biggest ones that I worked with. Alan Steele, all that Alan Steele. Just a lot of talent up there in Mississippi, North Mississippi, Memphis area.
Have you ever thought about writing a book, Blade? Because, I mean, just the stuff you're talking about here, just your 1995 alone, I think you could get a book out of that.
The bad thing is I probably can't remember half the stuff.
That's how you know you did it right.
Oh, man. I can imagine down in that area and with, some of those names that you mentioned, some of the stories that you have, I can image.
I can tell you when I was working with Moondog Spot, the very first match I ever had was I worked Derek King and we got our payday and we got our envelope and he said, "Look, y'all can go get a hot dog and a Coke out of the concession stand." So I opened my envelope. I got $10, a hot dog and a Coke out of the deal for my first shot with him.
People joke about that, right, Keith? Don't they joke about like the old hot dog and a handshake wrestling? Some guys did it, right?
Well, I mean, when you're working in the Memphis territory or working around the Memphis territory, I mean, they're legendary for their bad payoffs. Legendary for not having great payoffs, at least back in the day.
Well, I was paying my dues too. Like I said,
I was
just getting started. But it was so funny because the Moondog gimmick was that he couldn't talk or anything like that.
Right.
Right.
We'd be in the dressing room and all of a sudden he'd pop his head out and he'd start hollering, "Hey, y'all, come on, let's get the matches started." and then he ended up turning me heel on him. So I started working him we got to about our third match and the people started cheering me and booing him. And he finally goes, "Screw this, man. Let's just turn you back babyface. This ain't going to do me no good."
All right. So I want to get Reggie involved here, but how we do that is we might have to skip a few steps with Blade and we'll go back to Blade in a minute. But like, Blade, tell me when you met Reggie Matthews.
This had to be, I don't know the year, but it's had to be about 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Him and his partner at the time, Wes, were running Power Pro Productions. And they gave me a call and I went in there and started working some shows with them. They ended up running there, Tylertown, Liberty, Mississippi. Reggie was putting on a festival in Liberty. And just, we didn't see eye to eye at the very beginning of our relationship. We was on two sides of the coin, if you will. But I do want to say something about the story Reggie told y'all about our weapons match.
Bring it.
Mhm.
I handcuffed Reggie to the bottom rope, and his daddy was sitting in the front row. And I was hitting Reggie, and his daddy was trying to grab my arm from hitting him. But then when we spun it around, Reggie handcuffed me to the bottom rope, and Reggie's daddy's cheering him on. And I'm saying, "Wait, this is brutality. He's beating on me over here. I only got one arm." And me and his daddy we was exchanging a few words here and there, but
Oh man,
all in good fun. But
Yeah.
we had this great building in Macomb, Mississippi. Just it isolated. It was a very intimate building, very small.
Yeah.
I think probably maybe 125 people max could fit in there.
Yep.
But the atmosphere in there and the fans being involved, it was just a great environment. Great. I can't speak highly. The dressing room was great, and the environment in there was good. It was good vibes in there when you worked that building.
So, how long after you met him did you guys start working together? Like as far as the Bruise Brothers go?
I think we started the Bruise Brothers gimmick
This year.
This
year.
That's new.
Yeah, this is new. I had got out prior to COVID, the year prior to COVID, so that was 2019.
Mhm.
I was taking some time off. I was just kind of with my real job, and then wrestling and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted some time off. My little girl was getting a little older. She was her activities were having more involvement, including me, so I needed to be there, and just wanted a little break from it. Then I reached out to the SWA, Steve Starr, and just kind of asked him, if he needed me for anything, let me know. And then a couple of weeks later, he texted me about this idea, and he asked me, he goes, Reggie? And I said, well, yeah, I've known Reggie for a few years now. And he said, what would you think of this? And I said, let's do it. I'm all in. And Reggie and I got together, started, just talking about some general ideas and concepts we wanted to try out, think about doing. And just kind of started watching some old Pork Chop Cash videos with the Bruise Brothers back in the day.
Right.
And just kind of went from there. And then, I think when we go to these shows now, I think we really put on we got the fan support. I'll put it that way.
It's something that's it's a lot different from all the other tag teams that you see out there right now. So that gives us our own little corner of space that makes us unique. But going back to what Blade said, my story was very similar for us, the Bruise Brother concept. I had stepped away in 2018 for some of the same reasons. I had just had my third son was born, and I was exhausted. I was mentally exhausted because I was still running Power Slam Pro at the time and wrestling at SWA, and I needed a break, and I stepped away. And it was a similar thing. I called Steve. I was actually going back to the shows in 2019 just to go visit and hang out. That it starts to come back to you. And I called Steve. I said, look, man, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. And I came back as Crimson. I did a couple of matches. And then he reached out to me and said, hey, at the start of the year, how you feel about working with Blade and the Bruise Brothers? I said, let's do it. So we just took off from there. I think we started in December of 2020. Blade, I believe.
I think it was. Yep.
Yeah, December 2020. And then February. I'm sorry. It was February, I think, of this year. Right?
No,
somewhere.
It was December was the first show. Then we had a little bit of a break, and then we came back to Pearl River in February.
That's right. Yeah, we had kind of like a soft debut in December.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a co-branded show to kind of test the waters. We did it there, and then we did another actual SWA debut, which went off really good, and we've been rolling ever since.
How often do you guys wrestle in SWA? Is it once a month, or is it more random than that?
It's a little random random. I mean, like right now,
Yeah.
our next one may not be until February.
Right.
Steve's kind of taking a couple months off because we do a lot of the SWA does a lot of shows that involve the schools, whether it's a benefit for one of the activities, football team, baseball team, the boosters, whatever the case may be. But I mean, there was a time where it was once couple months we had it twice a month. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are both what we all obviously we consider you guys veterans, right? You guys have been doing it a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we asked Reggie this question. I'm going to ask you the same question, Blade. Was there ever a point in the beginning where you wanted to get signed by and do this for a living? By whoever, by Impact, by WWE, by anybody like that? Like back in the beginning in the 90s when you first got started, did you have dreams of doing that, or did you just didn't care? You just wanted to wrestle?
I mean, I think everybody's dream is to eventually get signed. I mean, the reality of it was that I probably wouldn't. I mean, I knew my limitations, but that didn't deter me from going out there and trying to do the best that I can. Believe it or not, I was a part of Power Pro Wrestling, which was actually the very first training facility for the WWE prior to the NXT and all that.
Right.
When I was down there, you had Kurt Angle had just come in. We had I wasn't there during The Rock's time. I came in after The Rock, but The Rock had just left. But Kurt Angle was in there. Mick Tierney was in there. Glenn Coca, Stephen Bradley. What's the young guy? Aaron O'Grady, who was Crash Holly. He was in there at the time. Hell, we had Wolfie D in there. Brian Christopher was coming in there.
Right.
I mean, they had a slew of talent that was in there, and I mean, I was fortunate enough to work with a lot of them. You had the Dubs. Back then, you had the Dub brothers. You had Charlie Haas and his brother at the time, who unfortunately is no longer with us.
Right.
Russ Haas was there. I mean, just loaded with talent, not to mention the local Memphis talent that they had. You had Bill Dundee, you had Jerry Lawler, all of them were there. Randy Hales, Brandon Baxter, just a room full of talent. The Spellbinder, Tony Williams, Alan Steele, I'll mention him again, Derek King. Not to mention you had the Rock and Roll Express come through every now and then.
Right.
You had the Fabulous Ones come through a couple times. You had the Moondogs. You had Jeff Jarrett come through there a few times for Power Pro. You had beautiful Bobby Eaton. Jim Cornette was in there for quite a while, who ended up bringing some guys from OVW, Nick Dinsmore, Flash Flanagan, Trailer Park Trash. And the list goes on and on. I mean, the talent that was up there was truly amazing. It was good. And once again, you only get as good as the people you work with. I mean, the variety of people you work with is going to expose you to either step up your game or they realize they don't have much in you.
So I asked Reggie this on Reggie's interview. The question I asked him was, how long does he think he's going to wrestle for? And he said, as long as my body will allow me to, which speaks to his passion and his love for wrestling, right? He's going to, he said he's going to keep doing it until his body, doesn't allow him to do it anymore. Are you of that same mindset?
I don't know that answer. Like I said, I quit once for 2 years. I just turned 50 last year. So, I mean, I could still go out there and do a few things and I still feel good after it. I've been very fortunate to take care of myself and, I learned a few things on how to stretching and just different exercises that help me prolong my ability to do most things. And I'm trying to stay active for my daughter and stuff like that. So, as long as people will book me, I'm willing to go out there and do things.
So at both of your place in the game at this point, would you say that like you'll never leave wrestling as far as like, like maybe getting involved in like helping the young guys out, like maybe at this point maybe they look up to you now and are looking for advice, or maybe possibly you guys to work with them and help them get better?
I try to do that as much as I can. Sometimes we're limited on access to be able to watch the other matches. I try to watch as many matches as I can because, for one, uh, I still learn every time I go out there. You know, if I'm not learning, then I'm wasting my time and I'm not doing it right either. So, but I'm always there for anybody that if they want to come pick my brain or whatever. I've been very fortunate. Like I said, I've worked with, you know, the Moondog and was able
Yeah.
to pick his brain. I was on the road with Bill Dundee for a while. I was on the road with Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man, for a while. I worked for Harley Race for World League up in Springfield, Missouri. So I was able to pick their brains. You know, I've been very fortunate. Some of the people I've been able to work with and talk to and learn from. And like I said, I still learn every time I get in there, but I'm always there to kind of challenge, if you will, you know, why did they do this? And, you know, try to point out, you know, what if you'd have done it this way? You know, I always like shooting holes into things. You know, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I just like challenging them to make sure that they really thinking these things through and why they did it and what's the outcome of it.
Keith, as I'm hearing him shout these names out, all I keep thinking of is, man, you got to be chomping at the bit with some questions about some of these guys, because this is right up your alley. Like, I know how
Yeah,
much you love Mid-South wrestling.
I love the history. I'm too young to have watched a lot of it live, but I've gone back. I've read people's books. I love listening to Jim Cornette, especially his drive through with his stories
It's
and
why I have him, Blade.
everything else.
He's the professor for a reason.
I mean, Blade, with everybody you've worked with, and you've worked with people that have been, you know, not just great wrestlers, but great minds, great bookers. I mean, does that something like that appeal to you at all, where you say, like, physically, I can't do this anymore, but you've done it for so long, you know, like Reggie said, I get that itch and I want to do something. I mean, does that give you any kind of thoughts about, like, hey, when I can't do it in the ring anymore, maybe I want to book, maybe I want to hang around and sort of agent help guys? Do you have any thoughts in that direction?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to, the opportunity. I think Reggie and I have been very fortunate for this angle that we're in right now. We've been very fortunate to be able to book this thing with the Black Rangers that we're doing now. I've helped out, you know, finishes for other matches at the SWA. The guys will come to me and ask me their opinion and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm open to anything. You know, as far as training guys and stuff like that, I'm probably not the best one to do that, but to show them some things, a few things, yeah. But I wouldn't want to say that I want to go out there and open a wrestling school or anything like that. I'm probably not the best one to do that, but I'm always there to, you know, to give some advice and, you know, if I see something, point something out.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, you just, for every, like I say, for everything you've been through and that you know, I cannot imagine that you wouldn't be a tremendous resource to any of the young guys, and they'd be stupid if they don't come up to you and be like, hey, can you watch my match? Can you tell me what I did wrong? Because, like you say, you know, shooting holes and things is probably one of the best services you can do to them. Because somebody that tells you you're great and blows smoke up your ass, that's not as useful as somebody that says, yeah, it's good, but, you know, you could have done this, could have done this other thing here, could have done that differently. Like, tell people what they've done wrong, and, you know, that tells you too how they take it. That tells you if they're serious or not.
Yep.
Well, the thing that I've always been told, and that was told to me, you know, if you want me to watch your match, then I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not gonna just tell you out there you're great and everything. If you want somebody to watch your match and really open to their opinions, because once again, not every match is perfect. There's a lot of great matches out there, but not of them are perfect, and you know, it takes a lot. And just seeing it from a different perspective has always been good for me. And I think it's good for anybody to be open to it. But you gotta, how can I say, you gotta have your ego in check when you asking somebody to watch your match. You definitely gotta have that ego in check.
Yeah.
Reggie, what's it like to have this guy as a partner? You know, you mentioned before the show that there's some goods and some bads, and he said he didn't know he had any goods. Can you elaborate on that?
All right. Honestly, there aren't any bads with Blade.
Okay.
Usually. No, it's been good, man. Like when he came to come work for me, that was probably 2012, Blade. I think 2011, 2012 in Macomb. We were running the shows at the Little Theater. We hit it off right off the bat, you know. I could tell we could get along, even though we were having matches against each other at the time. We got along great.
Right.
He likes to joke around a lot in the locker room, more than anybody. Now he doesn't go to the full extent of doing all these big serious ribs,
Right.
but he does enough. he does just enough to get you laughing, and it's good, man. I mean, the locker room wouldn't be the way it is without him.
Right.
Like when he stepped away. Matter of fact, yeah, he stepped away before I stepped away.
Right.
And it was a void there, you know. And then when I got back, he still wasn't back yet. And then as soon as he came back, it was just like old times with everybody, not just our interactions with him, with everybody.
Right.
And that's always good. I mean, what I like about Blade too, what I love about Blade is even with the younger guys that he hadn't met yet, when he first got back, he would go up to them, hey, how you doing? And talk to them,
Right.
jive with them a little bit. And that's good. That kind of brings them down a little bit and kind of calms them down and eases them out a little bit. Because, the lot of green guys in the back, they're jumping there, asking questions. They're fidgeting. They don't know what to do because they're nervous.
Right.
Blade always calms them down in one way or the other. So, yeah, man, he's a good dude.
My favorite one recently was when we was going to have this match, and I told the young guy, I said, "All right, you calling this whole thing? I ain't saying a word." And he just kind of like, huh?
Keith and I try to support our local wrestling here in Pennsylvania as much as we can. We get guys on here all the time. Some guys have been doing it as long as you guys have been doing it, and some guys have been doing it for a couple months.
Right.
I mean, so what advice would you give those guys that watch this? Because they watch this all the time, a lot of those young guys that we've met. What kind of advice could you guys give those young guys who are just starting out in the business, who are green as gills? And what is the best thing you could tell those guys? Either one of you, if you want to start.
I'll let Reggie start. I mean,
it would be to first thing, take your time in everything you do, every decision you make, whether it's bookings or getting ready to buy gear or even how you decide to take advice. The veterans are there for a reason. They've lasted this long for a reason. And then once you get some years and more experience under your belt, you can tell which veteran is what I call a true veteran or somebody that's a hanger on. Because we do have veterans that don't know anything too, and that's very hard to decipher at first when you first start, because you see these guys, oh, I've been wrestling for 30 years. Oh man, he has all the knowledge. Right. Yeah, but he may not.
Right.
And on the flip side of that, you can't get caught up on guys that have actually, been extras or gone to AEW for a dark match or wherever.
Right.
See, that's a lot of times that's the appeal. Oh, they got booked by WWE. They got booked by so-and-so. Or they wrestle in 5 different states.
Right.
I mean, certain situations that's great, but it just doesn't apply for everybody.
Right.
I'll follow up with something that I think about all the time, and it was, I'll dare say, I went through this as well, as I got very complacent in my ability in learning different things and wanting to learn or needing to have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You figure, sometimes you get complacent, you're doing the same thing over and over and over, and you just think, oh, I'm great. And, in reality, you're not, so these guys got to continue to learn, continue to be open to learning, book yourself out. Don't, just because you're in your hometown and you're getting a pop and things like that, you want to draw money in this business, go do that same thing 300 miles from your house.
Right.
The benefits I'll dare say these younger guys got today is just what we're on right now, social media.
Right.
I still remember, and Bo James is another one that'll tell you stories. We used to have to get 8x10s. You had to try to make a video on VHS, and then you had to mail it to a promoter. I was in the, I came in the latter part of that, where you was trying to get booked like that. Like I said, I was very fortunate. My routine was, like I said, when I was on the road with Jimmy Valiant, I was on the road with him for about 9 months. Me and this guy, Denny Cooley, started tagging together, and Derek King come along, and it was nothing. We would leave on a Monday, drive to Virginia, pick up Denny, spend the night. Then we was on the next morning to pick up Boogie. We could be going to Charleston, South Carolina. We get to the town. No matter what town, when I was on the road with Boogie, no matter what town we was in, we was at the local Walmart or a mall or something doing autograph signings. The days of we didn't get hotel rooms, I can tell you that right now. We took showers at the buildings. We took showers at the truck stops. We slept in the vehicles in the rest areas. But going on the road with Jimmy Valiant was one of the best experiences I had. And once again, we was in a different town every day. We could be in Charleston, South Carolina. We could be going up to West Virginia, then going over to Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, there was no, I think some of the real veteran wrestlers back in the WWF days, they said they just threw darts, hey, you're going to be in this town one day, you're going to be there the next day. Well, I think that's how Jimmy did his booking as well. And, so I was able to travel and get exposure in other areas. Denny Cooley and I were a tag at one time. And that was a big deal, to get out. Now I'll tell anybody that, don't get complacent in your skills in the ring, and don't get complacent being in the same territory, working the same people, because I still feel the more exposure you have to working with other people is only going to help develop yourself, develop your character, and develop your ability to draw money.
That's excellent. I appreciate you guys both for that, because a lot of the guys that we see, we have conversations with before the shows or after the shows, right, and they're at different levels. There's guys that have just wrestled just in Pennsylvania, and then there's guys that have wrestled and are doing exactly what you said, trying to get booked wherever they, get that same pop wherever, we have a young friend, a young kid named Flash Carter around here who is 20 years old. And I mean, he's already wrestled in 6 different states. And he's really trying to, get out there and get that same pop he gets in Pennsylvania here, for us in Quakertown. Cause he's obviously with the local crowd, he's well over the kids from Philadelphia.
Right.
So, I mean, and then you got another guy that we talked to that, and I won't name his name because just, it was a private conversation between he and I, where he was kind of complaining. He was kind of venting to me because he knows I'm not going to, go back to the, the bookers or whoever. Like, why am I going to get involved in somebody's business? He was venting to me about how frustrated he is and how, why aren't they doing this and why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they doing this and that? And I wanted to say to him, well, you shouldn't worry about everybody else. You should just worry about yourself and where you think you are at. You're probably not there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to take a step back before you take a step forward. And you got to, you can't let every little thing frustrate you. You just got to push through it, because eventually those shots will come. And then you'll, and then also, as far as building a brand goes, I told him that he's only in Pennsylvania. I said, you got to get out of Pennsylvania. I said, you got to go to Jersey. You got to go somewhere else. You got to go somewhere else where, they don't know who the heck you are and get the same reaction you get from us. I said that to him, and I don't know, what the hell do I know? about the business. You guys have been in it, knees deep in it, and you just said exactly the same thing, almost that I said to him on Friday night, like this past Friday night. So I think it's amazing and awesome that you were share that, because I want guys to hear that from somebody who's not a fan like me, who's a wrestler like you, and have been a while. You know what I mean?
Going to different promotions and working different shows other than your home base also gives you a chance to interact with a lot of other people, not just the guy you're working. You get to also, experience, because you get to experience good booking and bad booking in other places, good
Right.
promoters and bad promoters. And you get to see how, I'm safe here at home. You know how things are going to go. You show up, it's by the numbers, so to speak. But then you go somewhere else, it's going to be totally different, or it can be totally different. And that gives you some experience too. And I've always liked that aspect of young guys getting to learn that way too.
On the flip side, if you're used to the guy that books you all the time and the way he does things, and you go out and you try the way somebody else does things, maybe you'll like the way that guy does it more so than the guy that you've been dealing with for how long.
Yeah.
So I mean, you gotta get out there, right, Keith?
Yeah, you can't be, and I mean the flip side too. You can't be afraid to fail. Maybe you go out there and what's working in the home base, it's not going to work somewhere else, because everybody's different. Every area of the country is different. They used to talk about the southern style versus the northern style. What the southern crowds like is very different at times from what the northern crowds like. Up our way, we got away with the WWF style, where it was slow moving giants, the big powerhouse guys. And in the South, that wouldn't have flown. Not at all. It would not have worked very long, because they like the guys that are out there, the outsized personalities. They can move a little bit more. They're faster. They're more technical, or you get a little more of the blood and guts. Some people really like that. So, I mean, you got to get out there too to learn, okay, what can I do to make this audience love me, hate me, whatever the goal is? Because you guys are right. You stagnate if you stay where you're comfortable. How are you going to learn anything? Sometimes you got to, as Jim Ross said, you got to go away and learn a new hold.
Well, I speak on this, and I know Blade have seen this happen before too. We've come across guys over the years where they've only worked heel, or they've only ever worked face, and then they get to a show and promoting them to work opposite. And they like a deer in the headlights. Right. Well, I've only ever worked heel. And they may get mad. I've seen a guy getting mad because he had to work heel one time. Like flat out, like hot. Like, why? I've never been. You have to do what the promoter wants you to do. But as a wrestler, you have to be able to be fluid and do whatever. Like you said, going in this neck of the woods, they like this style. You need to adjust to that style. If you want to try to get over there. What you do over here may not work up there.
And I dare say, once again, with the power of social media now, you're able to kind of scout. If I'm wanting to go work in Pennsylvania, I can now go look at some different territories or promotions up there to see what their style is and kind of prepare myself. Hey, my next match that I'm going to try to send them clips of, I'm going to show them these clips because this is the style they do up there, because everybody's different. You got the southern style where it's a lot of walking and talking. Then you got the northern style that's nothing but action packed, flip flop flows, and everybody's got a different thing.
How do you well, I mean, like you mentioned social media. You're right. Everybody's on YouTube, right? You can pretty much go on and try to find guys. Different organizations have YouTube channels now, so you can check out their product and maybe be interested in going and buying a ticket to their next show. You guys each one of you take a turn and talk about SWA and like what it means to you. Some of the guys that wrestle for them now. And I know you got a thing going with the Rangers and everything, but with the Bruise Brothers, but like talk about some of the other talent in SWA and what you think of that talent. And do they have some young guys that maybe are up and coming, or do you got some guys that people would be interested in seeing?
First thing that comes to mind for me is family. I look forward to seeing my boys in the locker room. That's I almost like this, but it's coming to the show and wrestling the match. It's talking to my fellas in the back. It's always a good getaway for me to talk to the guys in the back. SWA runs a tight ship, family friendly show, no cursing. We get bloody every now and then, but no cursing. No, we don't even do no low blows, things like that.
Right.
It's clean as can be, and I like that because we get more kids at the shows. More parents bringing kids means more dollars and more merch that we can sell too. But when you have a good clean show like that, the word spreads a lot more than if you have a show with some vulgar acts in it. More parents would tell the parents, and when you come back to that town, the size is double in the crowd. We've noticed that. It's also good for TV too, on the local TV that SWA has all across the state of Mississippi.
Right.
If you got a clean product, the TV channels, they don't have a problem with putting your show out there. And SWA runs on, I think, 5 different networks right now in Mississippi.
Right.
That really covers the entire state.
Right.
For its talent, man, we got a lot of up and comers. Hillbilly Joe, which you guys did an interview with him already.
Yeah.
Dalton Delp, for us, the young guys, newer guys that started. Kelvin Rose, Joe Kane, the Daybreakers tag team, which Blade and I need a shot at those belts soon.
They won't give us a shot.
Yeah.
They'll avoid that.
Yeah. But those guys are all good guys. The entire locker room, really. Van Vicious. I can go on and on about the roster at SWA. But like I said, first word was family. I really do look forward to seeing them. Like whenever we get the next booking, I'm hyped all week leading it into that Saturday, knowing I'm going to see my guys. And, and we don't just talk about wrestling when we get there. How's the family?
Oh, yeah.
It's things like that. How's your kids? We're talking about life things. We talk about the match, but we're talking about life just as much. And you can't find it anywhere.
That's awesome.
No, I got to agree with Reggie 100%. The first thing is family. I mean, it's great tradition. They do old school wrestling. He mentioned some of the talent. Some of the ones that I've worked with in the past. Joe Kane. I've always enjoyed being in the ring with Joe. Barry Wolf is another one. To me, I think Barry Wolf is trending, and I keep telling him that he needs to keep watching things of Tully Blanchard. He reminds me of a Tully Blanchard type person.
Up your alley, Keith.
I gotta find some footage of him. Then, yeah, I love Tully.
He really does. He carries himself. He's starting to carry himself like that. His interviews are getting spot on. Lucas Frost is another one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed our time in the ring with them. The Sons of Titans as they go by. When I had a previous partnership with Calvin Rhodes, we've always had fun. We worked the Rangers as well. I feel like I've been married to the Rangers for the last 3 years. It seems like, whether it's with me and Reggie or prior to me and Calvin. Going back to you was asking me if I came out singles. Most of my career, I've been tagged with somebody. Tag's always been a big deal to me. I enjoy tag wrestling, tag team wrestling. Because you get a chance to share the ring with multiple people. I was a big fan of tag team wrestling growing up. The Fantastics, the Fabulous Ones, Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, the Freebirds, the Von Erichs.
Sure.
All those teams like that. Just big fans of it. you know, that's what I grew up on. The Armstrongs, you know, just all of that. Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong. You know, one of my favorite wrestlers was Brad Armstrong. You know, you just couldn't get any smoother or better than he was.
Very true.
Man, I don't know how to follow that. All right.
It's hard. I mean, he's seen everybody. He's worked with everybody. I mean, and how cool is that too? Like, you got to watch these guys, and then later in life, you get into the business, and you're working with them, and you know them, and you're talking to them. Like, just how amazing is that?
Oh, it's true. For me, it was humbling, you know, because, like I said, running into like one man gang and everything. I was scared to death of him. I'll tell you a quick story about Kamala. You know, at the River Center in Baton Rouge, I must have been, I don't know, 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. And I remember, doing my stomach at him, he turned. And when he turned, he was like he was going to take a step or two. And hell, I was little. I didn't know. I thought he was coming after me. So I ended up tripping over a chair, spraining my ankle.
Oh my God.
So years later, I'm in Memphis, working the Memphis territory with him, and I meet him for the first time, and I go up to him and introduce myself, and he says, "Call me Sugar Bear," and I say, "Well, look, Sugar Bear, I just want to let you know, you owe me, so much money." He looks at me. I said, "Yeah, you chased me back in the 80s, at the River Center, Centralplex. So you owe me some money now because I got hurt, And we just had a good laugh about it. It wasn't nothing crazy or anything like that, but it's very humbling, the people that I did get to watch. And then later on, like I said, working for Holy Race, he had Bob Orton Jr. in there. He had Greg Valentine. He had the Barbarian, just the people that were there, even working for WLW, the talent that I got to work with up there. It's just, like I said, I'm very humbled in what I've been able to do and accomplish, and the people that I've met. Some of them are lifelong friends now, that, every now and then you just send a text to just to, keep in touch and check on everybody. But I've been very fortunate to travel a lot of roads, and work for a lot of people and work with a lot of different people. That's why I said, these young kids, please get out there and, you're not going to go out there to a new town and make a bunch of money. Go earn your money.
Right.
And that's when you can prove that you're a money maker.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on one thing, guys. Blade mentioned it twice. Now, if you recall, he said his parents took him to the wrestling in Baton Rouge at the River Center. My story was identical to that, if you remember. That's the same thing my parents did. It's just crazy how it all comes together. But I don't have a Kamala story, Blade. I got a Tony Atlas story.
Tony Atlas.
It was who did he work? I can't remember who he worked, but for this time we had seats on the floor, and when the match was over, he got busted open, and he came out, and I was able to walk, be right next to him at the locker room, and he was all bleeding, and he did that to me. I was like, oh, so I didn't break my ankle, I didn't hurt my ankle, but I did jump. But same thing like with One Man Gang. I think I mentioned that when we did the show the last time. Mr. Link punched him, and he did the spit in the air gimmick. They had tied him in the ropes, and he hit him with the spit in the air. That scared the crap out of me because I knew it was real then. You couldn't tell me wrestling wasn't real. So, yeah, we all got good Mid-South stories in Baton Rouge, man.
Blade, how do you feel about, do you pay any attention to wrestling nowadays? How do you feel like where the business has gone as far as the mainstream goes, as far as like TV goes nowadays?
I don't watch much of it today. No. I'll go through it, Tom, just flipping through the channels or something. I think the talent today is, or some great athletes. very talented at what they do. The attention span of the fans today is very short, so they like these very quick matches where what I grew up doing and watching is a little bit different. But my daughter has me so busy right now. I don't get much time on the TV and stuff like that. But I know these guys, are tremendous athletes and they do a lot of good things. I always think competition is good. I hope AEW does great business to be a true competition for, Vince and them.
I agree.
Plus, it gives more opportunities for these young guys for other areas to work.
Yes.
The more areas you got, and I'll dare say it seems like more and more of these independent promotions that like Reggie and I work for, SWA, they're getting more and more TV spots. So it's coming back. I'm not going to say it's coming back to the smaller territories because, I don't think it'll ever be like that again. But
no, probably not.
I think everybody's starting to get more and more exposure. I know there's a lot of different companies. I think it's on Fife, that are being exposed. You're able to see more, more different varieties of wrestling now. Because like when I grew up, I got Mid-South at 4:00 on Saturday. Then Georgia Championship Wrestling was at 6:05.
Right.
Then on Sunday night at 10:30 for us, it was World Class. And then I'd get in trouble for staying up and watching Glow after. And, but that was the stuff that I grew up on. I didn't get to see, WWE till, probably in the 90s, late 90s and stuff before I was exposed to it. Now I've seen it in magazines and stuff, through magazine collections and stuff like that, but never seen any videos in it, because one of the things that I go back and watch every now and then on YouTube is the Portland area. Portland wrestling was great, and they had some great talent up there. So I like watching old Portland wrestling up there. So
I usually ask our guests who their influences are, but you mentioned that most of your career you've been tagging, and so your influences have been some of the greatest tag teams of all time. You mentioned the Freebirds earlier, you mentioned the Von Erichs, you mentioned the Moondogs, and and then these guys, the Fabulous Ones, and all that. Those are really old school tag team. I mean, the Von Erichs and Freebird rivalry is one of the greatest stories ever told in professional wrestling. They milked that for all it's worth for years down there, right?
Yeah, they really did. It was one of the best angles that I've ever seen. Of course, you had
to fight to get out of those buildings sometimes. I mean, you cannot overstate how much those crowds love the Von Erichs and saw the Von Erichs as like members of their family.
Hi, Tyler.
Tyler.
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Blade?
No, I was just going to say that was one of the best angles. And then, of course, on Mid-South, you had the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express. The Fantastics come in behind them. You had, I remember watching the Guerreros, Chavo and Hector was another, my first side, taste of seeing kind of that Lucha Libre type stuff, when they were in the Mid-South. I guess my biggest influence was the tag team wrestling. I'll be honest too. A lot of the wrestlers that I did like when I was young, I like them even more, or some that I really didn't like when I was young, I like them now because of the fact that I understand the business now of it. Right. So going back and thinking about the things that they did back then, I was like, okay, now I understand this now. So I have a greater respect for some of the ones that I probably didn't, I probably booed or something when I was younger. I have a better respect for them now, for what they did and how they did it. Because they drew me in every time I got it.
I'm sorry. I definitely have that too. They're guys, when I'm just a little mark and I'm booing them because they're the bad guys or whatever. And I go back and I watch it now and it's like, wow, I took for granted how good they were. Like now I see like those little things that they would do. And it's like, wow, they are so good at this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you both the same exact question because we're about 5 minutes off the hour already. Keith and I could talk to you guys all night. This has been great, absolutely awesome. But I'm gonna ask you both the same question. We'll start with Reggie, but I want you to fill in the blank, Reggie.
Okay.
The greatest wrestling match that you've ever seen is
Flair Steamboat.
Flair versus Steamboat. When?
Which one? Yeah.
For me, Chi-Town.
Hey, now I got to think about it.
Yeah.
For me, it was the Chi-Town.
Yeah.
That was good. That may take the lead.
Anytime Ric Flair hooked up with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was probably
magic.
Solid gold magic. Yeah. Same question, Blade. The greatest wrestling match you've ever seen was?
For singles, I'd have to go with Steamboat and Macho Man.
Oh, you made him so happy. He is the biggest mark in the world for the Macho Man.
No, that one was by far my favorite.
That is the greatest wrestling match of all time, Keith. I know you want to throw Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels in that mix, but I'm telling you.
I mean, it's close. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's hard to argue what's better, and sometimes it just comes down to what do you personally like better? Because, I mean, people can passionately argue any Flair Steamboat match. They can passionately argue Shawn and Taker from WrestleMania 25. They can passionately
I enjoyed that one too.
Yeah,
you can passionately argue
that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many, and it just comes down to, splitting hairs or what do you personally want out of a match more, and that's the magic. That's the beauty of it to me, is that
it makes me sad because they don't have matches like that anymore. Those two matches we just mentioned, Macho Man and Steamboat, or Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, they don't have matches like that anymore.
Well, and I mean, I think part of it is not to bag on, everybody, because I know this doesn't apply to every young guy, but a lot of guys now, they don't take the time to learn the psychology. They don't take the time to learn.
Well, it's what Blade said. Blade said the attention spans. The younger generations don't have the attention spans that our generation does.
Yeah, but I mean, I still feel like you could educate people, especially at this point, because people are so conditioned to what I would call the junk food style of wrestling.
That's a young kid there. He's saying Edge versus Foley Mania 22.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great match too.
Right.
And again, it comes back to what do you like? Do you like a little more violence? Do you like a little more danger?
Right.
In your wrestling, which they certainly had.
But
going to what I'm saying, like, I think now you have a real opportunity to bring the psychology back, because people are so used to, boom, 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 700 miles an hour, get done in about 5-10 minutes. Like, you look at what we just had on AEW last week. Daniel Bryan and Adam Page went an hour. They went an hour Broadway, and how many times did you hear people going, "This is awesome"? I mean, some of the fans, you could tell they didn't quite understand what was going on and appreciate it. But I think for the most part, that's become a novelty, where back in the day it was like, yeah, we did that on that's Tuesday night. That's just what we do in the main events. But now that kind of psychology and that kind of taking your time and slowing it down and doing all of that, it's novel now, because you're so used to the guys that are like, I got to cram, 7 spots in the 2 minutes because I'll lose them if I don't. It's like, you won't, though. If you educate people, they'll learn, they'll go with it.
Well, I will say this, your mindset is a whole lot different from doing a house show to doing TV, because at a house show, you got that 10, 12 minutes to play with, where if you're on TV, you got, you're scheduled for 7 minutes, but say the match in front of you goes a little bit longer. They come back to you. All right, now you got 4.5 minutes to get what you got to do. And then you're, and that's the mark of true talent, that they can do that and they can call it in the ring, and that's one thing that a lot of these younger people can't do anymore. They can't call it in the ring anymore. They're going through their matches in the back, and once again, going back to shooting holes in it, I'll ask them, you know, what if the fans don't like that first spot? Well, we'll just keep going. I'm like, well, that's not gonna.
Yeah.
How do you get the fans involved if you know they don't like what you're doing?
Right.
And I've seen some of these things on like WWE or elsewhere where it's obvious that, you know, the fans aren't into it, but they don't know what to do. They're not allowed to adjust, or, you know, they blow a spot and then everybody is just kind of standing there like, oh shit, I was supposed to do that. Now I don't know where I am because I didn't do A, and now I don't know how to go to B. And it's painful. Like I
Yeah.
just sit there and I'm like, I feel so horrible for them. Like, oh,
Yeah.
because it is. It's terrible.
agree.
You don't want to see people fail, and you don't want to see people fail on live TV in front of millions of people.
Oh no.
When we had Reggie on, the last question we asked him was at the end of the show. We asked him, he's going to interview us now. Is there any question that he wants to ask us? Because we've been asking him questions for an hour. Is there any questions that he wants to ask us? So, Blade, I'm going to ask you that. Is there any question that you would like to ask us? And then I'm going to give Reggie the final word because we haven't heard from him in a while.
No, my question is, why did y'all start this podcast?
We started this podcast in May of 2020 because we had been talking about it for a couple years before that.
Yeah.
And it was just supposed to be a bunch of us, and I mean like 3 or 4 of us, sitting around just talking about wrestling. Our thoughts on the current product now.
Okay.
WWE, AEW, maybe throw in a little Impact once in a while, whatever. And it turned into what it's become now because we got tired of WWE and what they were doing, and we were getting frustrated with that. So we started to turn to our local wrestling and getting involved with those guys, and we met a few friends. And the next thing you know, their friends are telling them their friends about us. And now every week on Sunday night, we have a different professional wrestler from either locally or from where you guys are, or from Texas, or from California, or from Florida, or we had a couple guys from Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were even graced with last December, we were graced with interviewing Hall of Famer Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
just making these friends in the business and getting involved in the business has reignited both of our loves for professional wrestling, because we were starting to drift away from it based on the TV product and what we would watch at home. We would watch, whatever WWE had on Raw or whatever pay-per-view they had going on. And then when AEW got going, I really was just like you guys, rooting for AEW. If anything, for a place that somebody could make good money for, doing this business, if they love it that much, to go all the way without having to worry about impressing Vince McMahon. And in that aspect, I'm rooting for AEW. I really am. I'm rooting for them to do well. There are some things about AEW that I like. There are other things about AEW I don't. I don't religiously watch it every Wednesday night, but I do keep tabs on what's going on there. And when I heard, when a friend of mine or even Keith or somebody says, hey, so-and-so wrestled so-and-so, you got to see this match. Well, then, I take up for their word. Keith wouldn't recommend a match I shouldn't see without me, right? But what it's become now, what Around the Turnbuckle has become now, is a platform for independent professional wrestlers to come on, tell their story, introduce them. If nobody's ever seen you guys before, tell your story. For veterans like yourself, it's to tell us everything you guys did, which was awesome. It was stories. It was love for the business. It was guys that you've met, guys that you've run into, guys that you were influenced to, and then your advice for the young guys. For the young guys, it's for them to help them build their brand, tell us who you are, and tell us who you want to be down in the future. And we always ask them, where do they see themselves in 5 years? And we always ask them, where do they see themselves? Do they see themselves wrestling in a, on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown or AEW Dynamite? I mean, yeah, some guys are like, yeah, some guys are like gung ho, and I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and that's great. But in the meantime, the difference between all the different guys and the levels, guys that have been doing it for a couple months and guys that have been doing it for 30 years, it's been amazing. And I can't wait to just keep on this roller coaster with my partner here, because it's been a blessing for us. It has reignited our love for this business, and we respect the hell out of each and every one of you guys that puts your body on the line for my entertainment. And I'll never stop doing it as long as I'm breathing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you used the word I was going to use on it is blessed, because it really was a happy accident. It was just a friend who knew somebody and said, hey, I think he'll come on and talk to you guys. He did. It went well. He was like, hey, can I go talk to some of the other guys I work with? I think they'd like to come on and do it.
Yep.
They did, and it's just been
All word of
snowballing
mouth.
from there.
Oh,
People
I
just
mean,
come on, telling them, saying, hey, I had a good time. You should come do it. And we're so blessed that people...
I don't know if Blade knows this, but like how we got Blade was Hillbilly Joe led us to Reggie, led us to Blade, and here's the Bruise Brothers.
Yeah, and that's just how it happens, and we're so blessed and so thankful that you guys come here, you have a good time, and then you're like, hey, I had a good time, let me get my friends involved and let me bring them in here too. I appreciate that more than I can ever say. That's why I always use the word, blessed, because whatever's going on in my life,
ultimate goal, Keith, our ultimate goal is to have a big enough platform where they seek us out, where they want to come. They've heard of us enough where they have. So if somebody that you guys have never heard of come on around the turnbuckle, by the time they're done, you'll know who they are.
I like that.
We'll get there.
Like
and my goal before I die is to interview The Undertaker, because that's Keith's favorite wrestler.
Yeah.
My favorite wrestler has passed away. That's the Macho Man. So if I can before we close this down for good, ever get The Undertaker on here, that's the end. That's the end game. Then I could die the next day.
Yeah, you can call it a day. It's a
Once
wrap.
one of us wins the lottery.
I hope we answer. Yeah, because he costs money. But I hope. But you're right. But I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. Now look, I mean, Reggie's finally I'm just getting a little shine, because Reggie don't let me have no shine any other time. So that's why he don't, I don't get to do much, so I appreciate y'all talking to me. I mean,
See, this is how we are in the locker room.
So as promised, Reggie.
Yep.
We talked mostly to Blade because we were getting to know him tonight.
Yeah.
I hope you appreciate that.
No, that was the whole plan, man. It's all
right.
Good. Yeah.
But so as I promised, I'm going to give you the last word. What do you got?
Well, on behalf of me and Blade, thank you for having us. It's been good. I knew Blade would enjoy himself on here because I had such a great time the first go around. And I'm glad that you guys have this and it reignited your passion for wrestling. Because I've been there on the fan side where it's like nothing's on. Well, I tell you when. Right after once WCW was starting to go down.
Yeah.
And then because I was never really a big fan of Raw. I liked The Rock, like Triple H. I liked the angles that they were doing. But they kind of taper off a little bit. And then WCW was straight crap at the end.
Right.
There was nothing to watch anymore.
Right.
And I was, as a fan, was kind of getting away from it. And that was, not too long later, much longer after that, is when I actually started training. So I'm glad you have this to kind of keep your juices going in wrestling. I do think I had some time to think while Blade was talking. Once I do decide to hang it up for good, being an agent helping the younger guys, I can see myself doing that. I don't think I ever go back the promoter route. That's a lot of it means much time as we spend as a wrestler, missing family time and other, a promoter, you spend even more time.
Right.
And I did that for 12 years. It's a lot of work. So now when me and Blade are done at our shows, we can pack up and go home. If I was to promote, I have to stick around, take the ring down, make sure everybody's paid, clean the building, things like that. And then doing flyers and promotion for months in advance. I just don't have that type of time anymore. Those days are long gone.
Well, man, on behalf of Around the Turnbuckle, the professor and myself, I want to thank the Bruise Brothers for being our guests tonight. You guys were awesome. Blade, I appreciated all the stories you had, and I really envy the all the guys that you've met and all the career that you've had. It's been an amazing journey for you, and I'm happy for you that you had that journey, and then I'm also happy that you shared it with us tonight, because that's, man, I'm sure you got 1,000,001 stories we can't jam in an hour, but
he does.
Yeah. But man, I tell you what, that's an amazing thing, and I hope you continue to do with professional wrestling whatever you guys want to do from here on out. And I also hope that you have a happy and healthy holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, and all that good stuff. And I appreciate you to the most for coming on and telling your stories. And when I go off the air, don't go anywhere. Okay. Don't sign off when I go off the air. Because Keith, any parting gifts, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you guys for coming on. Like I say, it's really a blessing, and it means so much to me that I get to hang out with you guys, and everybody like you for at least an hour on Sunday.
Talk wrestling.
Yeah, a little wrestling. Whatever's going on right now, it's busy season for us at work, and there are some truly ugly days when I get home, and it's great to be able to just talk about pro wrestling.
Forget about all that
for an hour every day, and I just forget about all that. And
Indeed.
Just connect with, that 7-year-old kid that first saw The Undertaker stuff the Ultimate Warrior in a coffin, was like, I want to see more of that.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bruise Brothers. I'm the Big Alboski. He's Professor Keith. This was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you guys all next Sunday, 6 o'clock on Around the Turnbuckle.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you gonna do, brother? Oh yeah! Woo! What?